Wednesday, November 12th, a 9-game slate on DraftKings and the full bag on FanDuel. And we're going to look through every single team in the Stokastic Boom Bust tool. I'm Josh Engleman, by the way. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. Let's get into it. Game number 1, Milwaukee Bucks at the Charlotte Hornets. 6.5 point dogs at home, 232 total. Pretty standard stuff on the Milwaukee side, and for the most part on the Charlotte side for today. Milwaukee is going to be without Taurean Prince for probably the rest of the year. He's got a herniated disc in his back. Hopefully he gets back, but not likely. Giannis, 25% owned, 25% optimal on DraftKings. Knipple, the only other guy pulling any ownership. Shooting guard, small forward eligible, 6,600. He's also 20. Everybody else sub that number. I don't see anything in the optimal rates or ownership, leverage, anything like that that makes me like super excited to anything here, but I'm always happy to get anybody against the Charlotte Hornets. So is Ryan Rollins rosterable? Yeah, 7% owned, totally fine. Maybe you want to get weird, do a off the bench thing, 2%er. If you get like 6 to him, a worthwhile pivot. If you're a Kyle Kuzma person, you do what you need to do. I don't really like all that much on the Charlotte side. I guess if it's going to be anybody other than Knipple, it's Miles Bridges. But ultimately, this is a 7 o'clock start, and I don't want to overload my lineup with early stuff that I don't find all that interesting. There are other places that we're going to get to that are way more important. And we have basically the same story going on FanDuel that we have on DraftKings. Knipple, a little bit higher owned than Giannis, but they are the two guys breaking free. Everybody else, again, sub 10%. It's the same situation here. Not a lot of deviation between sites. You're paying attention to Giannis, Knipple, and likely very little else. I'm not going to say a ton about the Bulls at the Pistons. The Pistons are 2.5 point favorites, 234 total. But here's the deal. Cade Cunningham is questionable for this one. Josh Giddey is questionable for this one. Whether or not those two guys play change everything. Even if it's just one on either side, this whole slate changes. If Cade is out, it changes even more, because then everything's broken for the Pistons. They're already shorthanded and missing a bunch of bodies. Beef stew is still doubtful. Jalen Duren is already 30% owned. I have no idea what happens here if Cade ends up out. You just get to everybody else from Detroit. Ron Holland, Javonte Green, Danish Jenkins, Duncan Robinson in this case. Karis LeVert should be back for this one. All of that is infinitely more interesting if Cade Cunningham ends up out. If Cade Cunningham is in, you can get some Cade, clearly. If you want to go back to the Ron Holland experience, if you liked it 2 days ago, do that. Javonte Green still here as some value. These guys' prices are a bit higher. But we need the news in this game. It's hard to give you guys what we need here because of how bad this would change. We just saw Giddey out, so we know at that point we're going to be bumping Kevin Huerter. We're going to end up bumping Isaac Okoro. We're going to end up bumping Buzelis and Vooch slightly from a usage perspective. Who am I missing? Ayo Dosunmu is 5,200. Pay attention to this news. This game locks at 7. Watch NBA Live before lock from 6 to 7 to get these updates. Similar story on the FanDuel side. It's Duren pulling 30% ownership as a center, 8,200 by the way. A little bit more to Cade. It's always easier to get to payups on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings. But again, I have nothing else to add here. This game, you got to put a big star next to it. This is a giant incomplete right now. Knicks favored by 4.5 at home against the Magic, 227 total. One of the lowest totals on the slate, tied for the low, I believe. This is a one decision point only item. Jalen Suggs is 4,700 on DraftKings today. We've got him 44% owned, 44% optimal. We saw the minutes restriction in his last game go away. He played 27, 28, 29, something in that neighborhood. That if he's anywhere near that, he's $1,000 too cheap in this spot. If that minutes projection comes back down and they're going to keep him in the 20s, he's still a completely fine play, but he'll be massively overowned. I think the key takeaway for what we see here now is that no one is owned in this game, and that's not all that surprising. Orlando is typically a bad DFS spot. The Knicks should have Mitchell Robinson back. If that's the case, that shifts Towns to the 4 more. He's less interesting in that point. That makes their offense slightly worse, but it makes their defense much better. That's not better stuff for DFS. So the only thing that I really care about in this game is the fact that Jalen Suggs seems wildly underpriced. And we're 3 for 3 in keeping up the FanDuel DraftKings theme. Jalen Suggs is 23% owned here, 5,200 point guard, shooting guard eligible. No one else is getting any love. And if I didn't say it in the DraftKings section, I could say it here because it's the same situation. Just because these guys are unowned doesn't mean I don't want them to show up in my lineups. When it comes to talent, they're always in play as the last guy in. If you've got $7,600 left, feel very happy having Franz Wagner. He's just good. Same story for Brunson, Bane, Banchero, Towns. I mean, Anunoby and Bridges too. Wendell Carter, well, these guys that are going to play 30 minutes no matter what, it's the boom score at that point that I feel a little bit better about. If my lineup's chalky, those are the guys I want to swap to. Memphis Grizzlies are 6.5 point underdogs in Boston, 229 total. Now, both of these teams are on a back-to-back, so take everything right now with a grain of salt. We don't have their injury report. No idea who's in or out, or if anybody's in or out. But if everybody's just in, Jaylen Brown, 8,500 small forward. It's always a tough position to fill. 20% owned, 20% optimal. The only guy getting any love on DraftKings to start the day. Everybody else sub 10%. But again, this is going to sound much like how I just said everything for Orlando and the Knicks. Ja Morant, Peyton Pritchard, Derek White. I mean, even Cedric Howard to a degree. All that is totally fine. They're just not going to be popular. One thing I want you guys to pay attention to. Josh Minot had been the starter. He had a less than stellar first rotation yesterday. Did not start the second half. And when he got pulled in the first half, he never showed up again. Is Josh Minot going to be the starter today? I don't know. There's a non-zero chance that becomes Jordan Walsh. He's 3,900. He's small forward eligible. He'll be an okay value if that happens. Slightly different ownership here on the FanDuel end as I scroll too far down the table so you guys can't see a single thing. 19% ownership to Brown, 11 to Morant, 10 to Pritchard, 10 to White. It's a very similar story here. It'd probably help you guys if I took the damn Knicks out of this table as well. It's very similar to what we saw on DraftKings in that, like, if you're going to go to anybody, you go to names you know the most. But we need these injury reports. 2 separate teams. If one guy on both of these teams don't play today, everything changes. What if Morant sits? What if Jaylen Brown sits? Or Derek White? We're subject to a ton of change because if somebody drops from Boston and we get more Anthony Simons at 4,600, that will look very different. Before we go any further, I want you guys to hit the like button. If you haven't done it yet, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. And if you want to sign up at Stokastic and get our sims, there's a link in the description. This will never get any easier. Click it. You're going to go to a page. It'll have all of the instructions on the top and a giant list of our partners at sportsbooks and pick'em sites. Find the offer you like that you're eligible for. If you've never signed up there before, follow those instructions. When you email us, you're going to end up with a month of the Sims. And if you do that for more than one of those offers, it's a free month each time. We have now reached the main event of the evening, and this is why you probably aren't trying to lock yourself into too much early stuff that's a little bit meh. It's because the Cleveland Cavaliers are pretty sizable in Miami today. You're probably asking yourselves, well, why is Cleveland a sizable underdog against Miami? They're better than Miami, and you would be right, but not today. Darius Garland out. Donovan Mitchell out. Evan Mobley out. Jalen Tyson out. Max Strus still out. Larry Nance questionable. Expected starting lineup for right now, it's 11:25 a.m. as I say this. Lonzo Ball, Sam Merrill, DeAndre Hunter, Dean Wade, Jared Allen. Not exactly the Cleveland Cavaliers you've come to know and love, but they are. That's the reason that you see Cleveland names in the first 7 spots of this game. 55% ownership to Jared Allen, 55% ownership to Sam Merrill, 30 to 35 on Lonzo and DeAndre Hunter, and stack on another 10 to 15 for Craig Porter, Dean Wade, Tyrese Proctor, Larry Nance, and a lone Heat in Andrew Wiggins. Obviously need to know the starting lineup, but one way or the other, you are going to have massive exposure to this Cleveland Cavaliers team today by default. At this moment, they have 12 active bodies. It's 11 if Nance is in here. Somebody's got to play all those minutes, and they're missing their 3 biggest usage dudes. There are shots to go around. It should not be surprising at all to see Jared Allen rank as highly as it does. Not the most fun matchup for him, but Bam Adebayo on the other side. So maybe it actually is a great matchup. Not to mention, Miami Heat game now is a track meet. And when you're going to be playing all of these lesser dudes for Cleveland, there's an opportunity that this game is crazy fast. If Sam Merrill's in the starting lineup as a $4,500 shooting guard, I don't know what else you're supposed to do. Is he a great per minute dude? Not really. He's not bad. Does it matter today? Sure don't. Not in this setup. Lonzo starting, getting something in the 26-minute range. Looks awesome. DeAndre Hunter is just like an actual starter, so hard to want to get away from a $6,500 Hunter now that he can take any shot he wants. Wade for value at $3,200. Proctor for value at the flat $3K. Porter. I like most of what you're getting here out of Cleveland. You're pretty much playing anybody with a pulse. If Nance is in at $3,900, I certainly don't mind that either. We're going to need a starting lineup. We're going to need any additional news on Nance. But this is the most important spot of the day, playing all things Cleveland. Unsurprisingly, no different on FanDuel. Massive ownership to Allen, 55, 50 for Sam Merrill. Much more ownership for Lonzo because he's 3,900 on FanDuel, so he's close to 50% owned. Makes perfect sense. You're still getting 30 to DeAndre Hunter. It's a little bit more muted to the rest of these guys. Not much going on for Dean Wade, Larry Nance. Craig Porter doesn't really seem to be a thing, at least as of right now. A little bit more love to the Miami guys, too, whether that's Wiggins or Powell. But the takeaway in this one is quite simple. Cleveland is the most popular team today. That could look different depending on that Bulls-Pistons game and some others, but this is your focus. Figure out what you like and what you don't like. Slightly less interesting one here. Washington Wizards, 15.5-point underdogs in Houston. The things that you want here are likely going to be Rockets. I think this is an incredible matchup for Alperen Şengün. This is a terrible offensive rebounding team in Washington. He might just grab 4 or 5 boards and immediately get 10 points. That's like, what, 17, 18 DraftKings points at that point? It's a big spot for Şengün. I think an 8K Kevin Durant here is also a little bit interesting. It's a pretty relevant price tag. Okay, I'm going to say this while I'm recording. 11:30 a.m. It just popped up on my watch. Jalen Duren has been downgraded to questionable today. So add him to the list with Cade. If Jalen Duren ends up out, it's Paul Reed season today. One guy I want to point out from the Washington Wizards, though, $3,500 small forward, power forward, Cam Whitmore. If you're looking for a different value piece than some of the popular stuff that's going around, he's played bigger minutes these last 2 games, and I don't see any real reason he's not going to play at least 20 today. $3,500 for a guy that's going to look for a shot in a game where he might play the whole 4th quarter. Revenge narrative alert, I might add, for Houston. If Cam Whitmore's 7% owned, that's a guy you want more of. After that, I think it's kind of slim pickings. Tough sell for anything. And the only real difference on the FanDuel side, Amin Thompson, slightly more popular here at 12%, but around 10 for Şengün, around 10 for Durant. It's the same theme on this one. One note, since I just shouted that out before, Cam Whitmore, 4,200 on FanDuel, not the same play. Another breaking news pop-up, 11:32 a.m. Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, not seen participating in shoot-around. Keep that note in mind. You're getting news during this video. That's always fun. Portland Trailblazers are 7.5-point favorites in New Orleans, taking on the Pels. Nothing really interesting going on for Portland. Nothing super interesting for the Pels, although in theory, Yves Missi should be here. Whether or not he starts, we don't really know. About 20% ownership to Avdia, about 20% ownership to Fears, about 10 for Drew Holiday. I gotta be honest, I'm a little scared for the Pels here because they can, let's say their best wing is Murphy. Well, he's gonna get Kamara, gonna be good for him. And they're starting Jeremiah Fears. Well, he's gonna get a steady dose of Drew Holiday. Neither of those things seem like really fun times for the Pels. I'm a little apprehensive about Jeremiah Fears. He's got a little negative leverage here. That makes me feel better. Oddly enough, I kind of like Drew Holiday more, but $7,500 is not going to be the price tag that I try to hunt down here. Avdia is pretty clearly, to me, the easiest guy to want to get to, but at 8,700, you're paying up for it. I find this game, Portland and the Pels, pretty uninteresting on the DraftKings side. There's a runaway ownership guy here on FanDuel. Drew Holiday only 6,800 here. I think this matchup is great for him. Not going to have to really worry too much about getting slowed down. There's not the defense over there outside of Herb Jones is not ideal. And Herb Jones is not going to be the guy tasked with stopping. Like Drew Holiday is not getting that assignment. They can go a different direction. So I actually like Drew quite a bit on FanDuel. After that, it's pretty flat, and that kind of locks me into that same area. If Avdia or Kamara are popping up in lineups, it's okay. This isn't a high priority game for me. Speaking of low priority games, this might be the biggest turd in the punch bowl here today because there's a lot of names you like and there's no ownership to speak of, and most of it doesn't look all that good. Golden State Warriors, San Antonio Spurs. We have no idea who's playing for the Warriors today. They're on a back-to-back, and obviously they're old, so they could shake it up. The highest owned guy in this game is a $7,100 De'Aaron Fox. I think I like him more than a 10% owned guy, even if he is 10% optimal here. After that, the highest owned guy is Steph Castle at 4. Now, if we start getting some names out for Golden State, maybe this looks different. But right now, this is the least appealing game on the slate from a DFS perspective. Even if we're thinking boom rates, there's really only 3 guys I'd like, and I'm willing to make it 4 because the 4th one would be Steph Curry, and I'd sound real stupid if I said I didn't like playing Steph Curry, even though I don't. But like, when it works, I want to watch it when it happens. You want to play 11-6, by all means. It's a tough price tag. Same story on FanDuel. Wemby got to 6 because you can play him at power forward. There's very little else here. I don't know why I'm selecting Sacramento at this time here either. Oh, it's because of the SA. Silly filters. Didn't notice it at first. Well, they're not getting owned either. And we'll get to that in a second for the FanDuel specific stuff. But whether it's DraftKings or FanDuel, there is very little interest in the Warriors and Spurs unless the Warriors do something weird. Final game of the DraftKings slate. We don't have the other 3 games for this one. And spoiler alert here, this is not the late height hammer we were looking. Phoenix and Dallas. Dallas 1.5 point favorites. No ownership to this game. These last 2 are unappealing. Royce O'Neal at 5%, Mark Williams at 5%. Now, I don't mind having more of these late games because it gives me the opportunity to offload them a bit during my late swaps, but I am not seeing a situation where I'm going to get a lot here. The one guy you want to keep an eye on is $4,700 Brandon Williams, because if he is starting for Dallas, then there is an upside for his minutes that doesn't exist if he's coming off the bench. As of right now, the most likely scenario for this game is not having a lot and hoping I'm in first 2 hours before this game starts. FanDuel's treating it the same way. You get a little bit of love for Mark Williams, which I do find interesting given it's center only and there's 3 more games to go, but $6K for him is a nice price tag. When he's healthy, he's good offensively. Ilch coming in here otherwise. Couldn't even get Devin Booker to a 20% boom rate. You guys can go ahead and skip this one for the most part, but now that I say that, I'm assuming the Suns and Mavs go to like quadruple OT. Let's close it out on the FanDuel side. I've got all of the late games on the screen right now for the reason being that there's not too many things to say here. We've got the Lakers at the Thunder. No telling what the Thunder are ever going to do on a given day. We don't know the status of Lou Dort. Hawks and Kings. And then we've got the Nuggets and the Clippers. This is creating a little bit of ownership here. James Harden, 9,200. He's playing like 36, 37 minutes a night. No Kawhi. He's getting a little love, about 30% owned. $6,800 Kristaps Porzingis, 20% owned, is at least a little scary to me. But it's Kristaps Porzingis. It's a great matchup for him against the Sacramento Kings. And he has power forward eligibility. Much more helpful than it would be if he was center only. Newly minted starting power forward John Collins, power forward center, 5,100 for this Clippers team. He is taking that spot of Bradley Beal, 20% owned, much deserved. If he keeps this starting spot, he'll be a little bit more expensive soon. As always, you can get to someone like Jalen Johnson. He's 15% owned. Chris Dunn's been playing big minutes. He's now 4,100, 10% owned. And then that's it. It falls off a cliff. Names I haven't said in this one so far, because it's a lot of them. Luka, unowned. Jokic, unowned. Shea, unowned. It's tough to get to these guys because these other pay-up options just look a lot better. Now, if you're going to go to somebody in this group, it seems easier to get to either Luka or Shea just because of center, because we already have talked about Victor Wembanyama and countless others. But I mean, 12-6 for Nikola Jokic, you're never feeling bad about it. It is in that there aren't a ton of dudes that like just match up with him. But I mean, Zoo's no joke. I don't really like a lot at the top. There's a key made that it should be Shea in this spot against the Lakers. 11-1, 3% owned. Is that the way you want to get sneaky with the reigning MVP? I don't think it's the worst idea, but we got a lot going on today. 9 games on DraftKings, 12 on FanDuel, an hour deeper dive at 5 o'clock, an hour live before lock at 6. We're going to playback at 7 to handle all of this news, all of our late swaps. That's playback.tv/Stokastic. And we're going to have a special guest tonight for the first hour. We're going for 3 hours. I'm only going for 1. We're going to have 3 hours of coverage tonight, but we have a special guest for hour number 1, for parts of hour number 1 tonight. No tie to Stokastic whatsoever, folks. It's a real name. You're going to want to check it out. Good luck tonight.